Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new resilience video. I don't remember what I've said last about how my October reading month has been going, but frankly, I've read less this year overall than I did last year, but I was expecting that because I've had less time to read this year than I did last year, so I really can't complain. Anyway, the first book on this list is called Run Away With Me. This story is a YA contemporary thriller following a sapphic main character who's basically on the run, and she happens to be on the run with the girl that she has a crush on. And I really enjoyed this book much more than I was expecting to, because like the thrill of whether or not they would get caught, since they are two minors running away, really kept me going and kept me interested in the mystery and the plot. And second of all, I also really enjoyed the characters themselves individually, and their sapphic romance was well paced and it made sense to me, and I just really enjoyed it, frankly. Like, this whole book was well done, and I enjoyed it more, I would say, than I did when I read Trouble Girls, which was a Thelma and Louise like retelling that I read a few years ago, and I was expecting this book to remind me of that, but I think this one is better. Anyway, all that to say, I also haven't seen the original story or whatever of Thelma and Louise. I don't even know if that's like a movie or historical figures or anything. Anyway, all that to say, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book I read is called O Vicious Descent, which, if you didn't know, is a YA historical fantasy sequel to This Ravenous Fate, which I absolutely loved when I read it a few years ago, or what feels like a few years ago. And this book did not live up to the hype or my expectations. Frankly, everything that everyone critiqued in the first book is so completely prevalent, is that the right word, in this one. This book is just so bad, and I just am so disappointed with it. First of all, the plot dragged on for so long. This story is so unnecessarily long. Like, the conflict resolution and the world building and the magic and the characters, I don't think I really enjoyed any of this aside from the romance. The romance is cute, and I enjoyed like how the romance developed from where it was established from the first book, but like in terms of the plot, I felt like it was so repetitive. Like, the characters kept going in circles every other page, which that's an exaggeration, but that's what it felt like, which meant that like everything was dragged on, and I didn't really understand like the point of that. Second of all, the ending, I hate that ending. I hate the ending literally so much, and it pissed me off. So yeah, maybe I just don't really enjoy like main character deaths. I find them to be kind of unnecessary. I guess that's a spoiler, but I don't care anymore because I rated this book 3 stars, and it was one of my most disappointing books of this year, which really goes to show how much I really hated it, because as we all know, I also read Oathbound and Sunrise on the Leaping at the very beginning of this year. So yeah, anyway, take that as you will. The next book on this list is called The Free State of Jax. This story is a middle-aged contemporary following a young main character who's fighting for his freedom on his own micronation. And frankly, I really enjoyed this book. I rated this book 4 stars, and I was quite surprised because I've read quite a few books in the past by this author. I read a middle-aged fantasy trilogy in like 2016, or maybe even earlier than that. And then like lately she's been writing a bunch of like middle-aged historical fiction books. So when this book popped up on my radar, I was going to read it anyway because of the author's reputation, but I was not expecting to really enjoy it. I love a book about a character who's fighting for like freedom and family and a home and everything. Like, I loved the character so much because he felt so real and so honest and so well done. And I love the plot and the friendships and the found family and everything, and even all the details about the legality of this all. If that makes any sense, this book kind of reminded me of like Flindle meets Hatchet, but with more character development, if that makes any sense. Anyway, like I said earlier, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. Next book on this list is called The Forbidden Room. This story is a midway fantasy sequel, and I was so excited to read this book because I really loved the first one since the magic system felt so unique, and I loved the academic school setting, I love the found family, and I love an underdog main character, and I felt like this book just did not do the first one justice at all. My favorite fantasy sequels are when the authors really like amplify the stakes and add new characters and expand upon the magic system, and I felt like this author did all of that, but only halfway. I really just wanted more. You know what I mean? Basically, this book could have felt really heightened and really amplified, but she just didn't do that, which is really interesting because in her previous Crown of Feathers trilogy, the second one was so much better than the first one, even though I loved the first one already and I didn't think that that could have been possible, but then it was. I don't know. Anyway, this book was good, but it was just not great. And so with that said, I rated this book 3 stars. I really wanted to like it more since I did miss the characters and the found family, and I did enjoy seeing them again. I just wanted more from like the plot and the magic and everything. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 3 stars, so take that as you will. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, is called K. Jane. This story is a YA contemporary following a third-generation Korean-American main character who's trying to connect with her culture because she's navigating internalized racism, even though that phrase, internalized racism, never quite actually shows up explicitly in this story. Like, that's what she's doing. Anyway, I thought this book was so well done and so good, and it really exceeded my level expectations because the Goodreads synopsis implied, in my opinion, that certain plot points would happen earlier in this book than they actually did. But this book is so much more than that. It's like a character-driven, coming-of-age story, and I thought it was really well done. As someone who has navigated internalized racism myself, due to my Asian heritage as well as my Black heritage, like, I thought this book was so good. I really enjoyed it, especially given the conversations between her and her friends. Like, I thought this book was so well done, and the romance was also so cute and so well paced. I also loved, like, the portrayal of her relationship with her grandmother as well as with her parents. Like, this book was so good and so well done. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. So in conclusion, I've just remembered that this video is coming out in November, despite the fact that today currently is October 27th, and I've read 26 books so far, which is a pretty good, fruitful reading month, given the circumstances. But anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to like and comment and subscribe. So with that said, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, please comment down below the ladybug emoji. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!